Elon Musk is a threat to the global order, and what I'm trying to phase in as all nations as permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. I feel as the lead architect of this movement that Elon Musk poses a threat to the United Nations Security Councils of all nations permanent members status. I have intel to believe that Elon Musk has used his tech company to stream short videos that makes it seem like left-wing news is supporting Trump and endorsing Trump. He streamed left-wing news short videos of pundits being interviewed praising Trump on all left-wing news outlets. He took snippets of people being interviewed on left-wing news praising Trump, and then he targeted Latino communities throughout the country with their smartphones accounts and their televisions streaming by hacking into the systems of the tech companies and streaming these videos, shorts, and targeting Latinos communities and African communities in order for Trump to commence his 2025 agenda. And they stand in my way of implementing in the United Nations Charter the Permanent Security Council of all nations to be afforded permanent seats membership. Because I want all nations in the United Nations, all countries, to have their permanent place at the table when it comes to Permanent Security Council status. That all nations have equal vote globally to deal with national security interests that would safeguard and shield the world when it comes to the highest national security interests of the United Nations to safeguard all nations from nuclear destruction. Elon Musk is in my way. Trump is using Elon Musk to hack into foreign nations with his Starlink and to espionage foreign nations on behalf of Trump using his Starlink network satellites. Trump is using Elon Musk to subjugate America. So as far as my agenda for uniting all nations as permanent members of the Security Council, Trump and Elon Musk are priority number one. America is using its veto power within the 5 permanent member council that exists today as Permanent Security Council. America wants to use my technology and its veto power to stay as the world's sole superpower. So they're using the CIA and the Pentagon to entrap me and assassinate me. Because America doesn't want to relinquish its position as the world's sole superpower. They want to use anything at their reach to maintain and veto and not allow the rest of the world to be permanent members. And they want to use the technologies that I'm developing to deal with nuclear weapons to disarm their nuclear opponents, but to keep their weapons pointed at the world, to keep America's nuclear weapons pointed at the world in order to rule with impunity over the world. So I feel within the amendments that I'm trying to bring to the United Nations that I want all the shadow forces of the world to push America aside and to allow all nations on earth to sit down as permanent members. So for that reason, America is priority number one. To get America out of the way from blocking the rest of the United Nations and the rest of the country of the world from having their seats. So Elon Musk and Trump are priority number one. America has to step down and allow all members to become permanent members. I will not let America use my technologies to disarm their nuclear armed opponents, but then to keep their advanced weapons pointed at the world to give America the impunity to rule over the world as a tyrannical superpower. So I want all shadow forces globally, on this effort to remove America's veto monopoly as one of the 5 members of the council. America is not allowed to interfere or tamper into the amendments that I am proposing for all nations to push America out the way and to allow all nations on earth to sit down as permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. So for that reason, America is to be targeted with the intel forces in order to counteract America's foreign affairs in intermeddling when it comes to this amendment that I'm trying to bring to the assembly floor to be phased into the United Nations Charter. So Elon Musk and Trump are a threat to global national security interests. I advise that all leaders cut negotiations and talks with Trump. That all leaders, intel forces throughout the world, all sovereign nations, countries throughout the world, that your sovereign leaders alienate and push Trump aside. Prevent him from trying to commit this hegemony atrocities on the rest of the world. I want all leaders to cut their ties with Trump and Elon. And the United Nations has to step down as veto power and allow all nations on earth to have their permanent place at the table as permanent Security Council members. So my diplomatic amendment, I insist that all sovereign nation leaders throughout the world cut their ties, their diplomatic accords with Trump, to have no dealings with his administration or Elon. And I advise that the unanimous assembly floor membership of all nations to push America veto power away and to allow all nations to be permanent members of the Security Council. So for that reason, as a diplomat, I advise that all international sovereign nation leaders cut full ties with Trump and America and to vanquish their veto power when it comes to stopping the rest of the world to have an equal place and an equal vote as permanent members of the Security Council.